Welcome back to my channel. This is Colton, BearScareBeauty. Had to make sure my window was closed for some reason. Anyways, hey, yeah, welcome back to my channel. I know you can see my mic right here, but bring it in a little closer. Yeah, now you can really hear me for once. Get rid of you for a second. Anyways, yeah, that's because I'm going to be changing camera angles, and I'm going to show you how I start sculpting a prosthetic. It's going to be a small prosthetic. I just have some monster clay right here on the back of a yogurt lid, and it's actually kind of great because it makes a nice airtight container. So you can just do that, keep the prosthetic in there. This is for smaller ones, obviously, and ones that aren't molded to the face. But yeah, so we're going to be changing camera angles so you can see that. For those of you who don't know, monster clay is like a plastic-free, wax-free, oil-based clay. It's pretty hard, but you can warm it up like in the oven or with your hands or something like that. And then you can also use like alcohol to kind of thin it out and brush over it, smooth the texture out and things like that. So yeah, we're just going to be using this today. So yeah, I'm going to move the camera and I'll be right back. Alright guys, back on this new camera angle. It's not great. I have my toothbrush for texturing, and I have my little goodie bag of tools here. I actually just ordered these on Amazon not too long ago. It's a pretty, like, I guess, high school-y grab bag of sculpting toys. It's great because it does have some silicone tip toys, which are really good for things like this. As well as, what's kind of, it's like a wire brush. I don't know if you can really see that. But yeah, it's also great for just like giving little textury bits to it. Anyways, the light is not ideal here, obviously, and I'm trying to like get you as much as I can. Anyways, get out of here. Get out of here. Yeah, so I just took that yogurt lid and I kind of scratched it up a little bit just with some sandpaper so this sticks better. And you always want to focus on like edges, right? You want to consider that this part is what's going to be the edge of the prosthetic, and you want it to blend as seamlessly as possible. So we're going to do a basic cut. That means I don't need much rise, right? I don't need a ton of lift on it because you want cuts to be pretty flush, pretty seamless. Alright guys, I am back. I needed to take a little break. I readjusted the lighting a little bit so you can see this a little better. Anyways, so I've started smoothing down the edges so you can see it's a very fine edge versus this is still a little bit chunky. And we want a very fine edge. And really, I kind of prefer doing cuts and things like that out of scar wax, since it's more in the moment, honestly a little easier to work with, and requires less time and dedication. But this is one of those things that's like, oh yeah, I've got this basic, repeatable, reusable cut, bam, bam, bam. It's really consistent and things like that, so if you're moving from one scene to the next, need to replace or touch up, you always can, right? So this is one of those things. This is, you know, a reason why you would be doing that. Perfect. So now that it's relatively smooth, I think it's still pretty high and bumpy for what I'd like it to be, right? So I think we're gonna thin it out a little more. Just gonna compress. Push it down. Now, I'm sure as you can see, I'm leaving some little ridges here. Obviously, we don't want that. So, take some isopropyl alcohol, squirt it down. And it doesn't... It kind of dissolves it, but it just, like, lets you smooth it out a little bit easier. get it a little bit smoother. It's a lot more smooth, right? Okay. I'm gonna drop this back in the oven real quick. I'll be right back. And while that's sitting in the oven, I'm just gonna be a talking head for a second here. Talking hands for a second here. So, about cuts and things like that. Cuts, we've all had a cut, right? If you look at your hands, it doesn't bubble up when you have a cut. You might see a slight rise around the wound tract. That's because that's the skin peeling away, right? Whenever we see cuts and things like that in a movie, we've almost been trained to suspend our disbelief, right? Cuts are never... how do I put that? They don't look like enormous, like, bubbles of flesh that have been split in half, unless there's something jammed into it quite deep and it's been wiggled around and stuff like that, right? They're usually very thin, very shallow, things like that. So, whenever I'm making a prosthetic like this, it's going to look a little hokey, especially since, like, in prosthetic making, I am not at, like, the pro level, right? I'm not like RBFX or anything like that. I'm still kind of at-home, one-off use, right? Right? Anyways, I just wanted to run that past y'all. Bye! And we're back. I put this in the oven for about 2 minutes on the lowest, 170. Probably even go a little less than that, but you may not be able to see here, but it's quite liquid around the edges and quite soft in the center. So now I'm just going to be able to gently drag it by, and I'm just gonna spritz it down with a little alcohol. The alcohol gives it slip, right? It may firm it up a tiny bit just because it's cooler, but you know, not too terribly much. Now, we're just going to jump into it. It's going to be a cut. I want it to be like kind of a curved cut, right? So I'm going to, it's just your average scalpel-y tool. I'm just going to decide. There we go. That is the beginning of our cut. And now we just do. The nice thing is, though, is this is clay, so it is, you know, quite forgiving. Nice little gash there. It's at an angle. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to lift the edge up slightly. Take the curved end of it and just kind of push it up and back a little bit, up and away rather. So that, I mean, just off the bat is a pretty quick cut. What I want to do though is draw out this end a little more. Kind of widen it up right there, so I'm just going to cut in, kind of press down, take the back of the tool, smooth, since if you can see there's like a hard lip on the back here, I don't know if you can see that, so I'm going to take the tool, a little alcohol, I'm just shaving it down. The best tool I'm probably going to use, this is like a serrated little thing, and I'm just going to use this and I'm going to kind of like rough it up in circular motions and angle it slightly. So I don't know if you've ever seen the inside of your body, but it's not perfectly smooth. Go back over it with my finger and smooth out some areas. And it's just going to be a lot of this. I'm going to widen the cut a little bit, I think. It's not extreme enough. That circular part again. See, nice little curved wound channel there. The inside is a little textured, which is fine. It's going to hold on to paint and stuff like that. I am going to turn it. You're not going to be able to see it, but I'm going to clean up the inside there. Sorry, y'all, I'm trying to face it so you can see, but it's hard for me to look up close to it when it's, like, that far away. That ought to do it, I guess. Maybe? I don't know, man. A little bit. Alright. I'm just shaving this down. Yeah, if you've never worked with this stuff before, it's really kind of bizarre feeling, because it's, like, the texture of, like, a leather-hard clay. Like, at all times. Now that I'm pretty satisfied with both, like, the thickness and kind of the way the overall cut looks, sorry if that's horribly out of focus. This thing's autofocus is not doing it any favors right now. I am going to start working on smoothing it out and thinning out the edges, so I'm just going to alcohol mist. This is actually a relatively soft bristled brush as well. It has harder bristles, but I'm using the soft bristled side. Ooh. I'm just reducing this to a very fine powder. It's going to help it look a little more natural. Since right now it kind of has like the mottled skin texture, and I'm just looking to smooth out some of those little imperfections. Take that soft bristled brush again, and I'm just gonna kind of using the little beads, and when you kind of rub them around like this, it helps it give it like a more skin-like texture, and then you just kind of sweep them away. I don't know why I'm using my finger instead of a brush for that. Now we're just going to go over, if you can see right here, there's a little bump that I want to get rid of, so I'm just going to a little bit till she disappears, like so. And go back over with this and just add a little more texture right there. And it's really just a game of off and on, texture, no texture, texture, no texture. Right? I'm really trying to get like right up to the edge here. Once again, just using the soft side. We're not trying to do a lot of damage here. We're just trying to make a little more skin-like. Try to avoid circular motions, but like kind of sweeping motions, or a little more natural looking, I think. Now, if you can see, right here is a real big lip because of where I keep breaking it like a dumbass, so I'm just gonna kind of press it down. And when I'm doing this, I'm not really even putting pressure on my finger. I'm just letting it kind of run around and form these little beads and then sweeping them off to the side. I do really need to thin out the edges though, so we're just gonna start doing that. Probably not going to do this on camera much unless I get, I might get soft instead of medium for this, because working on a face piece, or just use my heat gun, working on a face piece is a lot different. It's going to be attached to a face mold, and then of course you're going to want to get things like real thin, so I might even use like regular clay instead of a polymer clay like this, or just get like some red clay or something. I do like really oil-based clays though. I think medium's just a little too hard. Or like I said, once again, use my heat gun. Yeah, do you see the difference the alcohol makes when doing this, though? It really helps thin it out and shear it out, and of course using it on the edges is going to help us get these nice paper thin edges. And ideally what you would do with this is you would, of course, pour silicone or whatever to encapsulate this, and then, in for a penny, in for a pound, right? We're gonna rough that up a bit. You know, ideally do that, pour silicone, get that all molded in there, make a reverse composite of it, so you would have, like, the silicone mold, which would be the reverse of this, spray it gently with a couple layers of capping fluid, and then pour some silicone or, you know, foam latex or whatever over that, so the bits that were exposed to the capping fluid are really just comedically ultra thin. And then the rest of it is, you know, has that more robust foam latex behind it, so you get these weird thin edges, which you would just, you know, stick down to the skin and then dissolve whatever's left with other capping fluid or acetone. And then you have the bulk of it that's either silicone or foam latex, and that helps give it, you know, body and strength, and it looks skin-like. Sorry, I'm just dusting that off. Don't mind me. Cool. I don't know if you can really see the texture it has there, but it looks relatively skin-like. There's a couple areas that are a little rough, so I'm just going to go back in with rubbing alcohol and the brush and just kind of... And now, just because I can, I'm going to use this as that kind of wire brush tool, and we're just going to use this to kind of develop some wrinkles, shall we say. And there we have it, guys. This is just your basic cut. I know you can't really see the skin texture on film, but it looks relatively skin-like. I'll do some insert shots, I'm sure. And yeah, this is just going to be one, you know, whenever you have a repeating cut or something that you don't just want to have in a one scene or something like that. This would obviously be the easiest or best way to do it.